This simple opening is unbeatable for club players. You start with the move d6. You don't have tons of hours to memorize a lot of lines. Well, this opening is perfect for you because you can play just one system against absolutely everything. And you don't care about some weird moves that your opponent can play, knight f3, whatever he goes. This system works. He goes c4, yeah, not a very typical approach, but I always do the same thing. I'm gonna play knight to f6, and next I'm ready for the move e5. Yes, I could have played e5 immediately, it doesn't matter. And that's the entire point. It's super reliable, you can play it against beginners, you can play it against 2000 ELO rated players. I have played this against super grandmasters, Hikaru Nakamura himself, and it worked really great for me. So this is universal opening that you can just understand and then use in your games instead of trying to memorize all the variations. Moreover, it's not mainstream, so your opponent would not know how to handle it. And he doesn't have enough experience. So either he's gonna play the positions badly, or he's gonna waste a lot of time, like my opponent here, trying to figure out how to play. Whereas you gather more and more experience with every game that you play. The plan is simple. We play d6, then the knight goes to f6, then we play e5, this bishop goes to e7, we castle, this knight normally goes to d7 to protect the pawn on e5, we never ever are allowed to blunder it, and then we play c6, and either play on this side of the board or in the center. Let's see how exactly we are gonna implement this plan against our opponent. I thought my opponent fell asleep, but he's there again, playing d4, very reasonable move. We play knight to d7, because we cannot play e5 immediately, he's gonna just take us, right? So we do that, and we are ready for the move e5. Basically, no matter what our opponent plays, we are gonna go ahead with it. The only exception is bishop f4, some kind of London system, but there we just play g6, bishop g7, and then again play for the e5 move. He plays g3, so we go ahead and play the move e5. Now we are already putting pressure on the center, and in some cases we can even be very active and go ahead with e4. Like let's say he plays bishop g2, we can play c6, remember that's a part of our plan anyway, and then we are already ready to overtake the initiative, play e4, d5, and so on. If you want to be calmer though, be more solid, you can still go ahead with bishop e7, it works wonders. Knight goes to c3. Yeah, I think let's start with the move c6, because that's more flexible. We both have this plan in mind, as well as bishop e7 and castles, and for our opponent it's still more difficult. He has to consider all of those options. And if he ever takes on e5, that's of course not a problem. We just take it back, and then our bishop has even more freedom. He basically exchanges this more active pawn for this less active one. That's not a problem, as long as you don't blunder the pawn. Okay, bishop g2. So do we play e4 and d5? Let's try it. I mean, my philosophy in chess, you want to be active. That puts as much pressure on your opponent as possible, and he struggles to find the right decisions. Knight d2, of course, we can never blunder that pawn, so we play d5, and look how solid and holistic our pawn structure is. I have an entire playlist on this channel with this opening, where you can learn how to handle absolutely all possible options from your opponent, e4, d4, c4, whatever he can play, different variations there. You can watch in the playlist, so you can be prepared against everything. He takes on d5, that makes sense. We take it back. And here, there is an interesting idea. Both bishop e7 is possible, but there is an interesting idea to play bishop b4 to just put pressure on that knight on c3. I don't know, I would say to keep it simple, let's just play bishop e7. We are ready for castling, the bishop is very solid here, we don't have any problems. This knight, whenever they attack, this knight can go to b6 and just protect the d5 pawn. Instead of knight to d2, they can also play knight g5. Our plan is absolutely the same, we just play d5 and control the entire center. But in that case, bishop b4 might be even more interesting. Queen goes to b3, exactly. Well, I like it that my opponent is trying to be active, he's trying to go forward. Well, we always consider the threats. What was the idea behind our opponent's move? He wants to attack the d5 pawn. This is the base pawn of our pawn structure. If you lose it, everything collapses. So we play knight b6. Now it's protected. The c4 square is also under control, because how on earth do you actually develop your stuff? This bishop cannot be developed because it's blocked by the knight, but the knight has 0 squares to go, and the bishop is blocking the rook. Like, the entire development is stuck. And if you want to play f3, which is a typical move in this type of position, be careful not to just lose your knight on this spot. e3, attacking the knight, you have 0 squares to go. It feels like he has to play e3 first and then play that. Okay, actually I'm wrong about that. He does have a square on b1, so passive that I have forgotten about it, but it makes sense because afterwards this pawn might be vulnerable. Anyway, he starts with the move a4, trying to go a5. I think we do the same, just play a5. Yes, this knight is a little bit more vulnerable, but there is also an advantage. We get this b4 square. The bishop can go there and just block this queen completely. First of all, I want to castle. Maybe play bishop e6 at some point so that it's all super solid. But for him, the question is, how do you even deal with all of the problems? I think f3 is the solution. e3, knight b1. Yeah, I don't really want to lose that pawn. I do have knight c4 though. That might be fascinating, because if I can maintain the entire structure, he's super miserable. Knight a3, I can't even take it with the bishop, because my knight on c4 totally dominates that bishop on c1. And otherwise, he's very passive. Knight takes d5 is, of course, not a problem because queen takes. It would be a problem. Maybe why knight c4. Once he plays f4, then he's threatening to take. Okay, he plays that immediately. Maybe he wants to remaneuver that knight over here, but it's like very slow. At least, yeah, he gets to develop his stuff. I understand the idea. We can still play knight c4, by the way. But maybe knight takes c4. Doesn't matter how great your idea seems to be, always think about the opponent's opportunities. And always start with the most active ones. Checks and captures. Knight e4 is a capture, and then our knight is in trouble. But we don't need that. I would just castle, make sure that my king is safe, and now I'm ready to go ahead and destroy my opponent. I think already we have a good position. Like, this knight was on g1. It can never be good that he plays knight to f3, then knight to d2, and then finally knight back to b1, as if he is preparing for the next game, right? So don't be afraid of that. The question is, how do you take advantage of those weird moves from the opponent? First of all, you don't panic. Secondly, you try to understand what is the best, what is the most active way for you to proceed. And usually you just want to bring all of your pieces into the game, achieve all of the opening goals, fight for the center, develop pieces, and make sure your king is safe. That's what I'm focused on. I'm still looking at this knight c4 every single turn. It feels very interesting, but again, I think knight takes e4 is possible. Then knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, and finally queen c4. I do have compensation in the very end, bishop e6. I have 2 bishops. He has this pawn hanging. So like the queen has to protect it, but the only way is queen c3, then I win even more time, or maybe bishop b4. Like, he's wasting tremendous amount of time and I'm super active. The question is, do we still need it? Because we can just play bishop to e6 and then play knight c4 without any risks. But he can play knight a3 and stop knight c4. Takes. It's not like I really want to give up my bishop there. I feel more and more than I want to play knight c4 because it's super active. I'm ready to play rook a6 and rook b6, just destroy him over there. The rook would be very useful along the 6th rank, controlling the b file. Yes, he can play knight b5 to block it, but the point is the queen would be neutralized. But I have to, of course, think about this knight e4. I like knight takes so that I provoke him to give up his bishop. And then this bishop e6 line, it feels very promising. Let's say queen b5 to create a counter threat. Well, I have queen takes d4, queen takes b7. I don't believe he can somehow be okay. He lost so much time. But I have to be concrete. I don't have rook b8, of course. He just takes it. But I do have bishop d5. Like, this queen is kind of in trouble. No, I don't believe it can work for him. So let me be as active as possible and show you how how it should work, how you should prefer the activity and not be afraid to lose a pawn if you get everything for it, the entire initiative. Maybe he can go back to d2, like he already developed his bishop, and now he can go back to this knight d2 idea. Not a problem, I can take it and then play rook a6, still rook b6 is coming. At some point this rook can come here and I can have some checkmating attacks, who knows. If you wanted to just normally go ahead with the development bishop e6, rook to c8, that's absolutely fine by me, I don't see a single problem for us, but I just want to try to be more active and show you how it works in a real game. All right, he plays knight to b5 instead of all of that, instead of all of the captures. He wants to create some counterplay over here, but somehow I don't believe in it at all. Feel like I should be more powerful. Moreover, I can play bishop g4, creating a threat over there. Maybe he wants to play here, right? Knight c3, and then the second knight. That's smart, I have to admit. But I'm still very active, why not? I can proceed with queen to d7, maybe bishop h3, exchange those bishops and play for the checkmate. If you want to feel confident in the opening and afterwards finally take the opening pain away, join my signature program, Opening Master. Right now, you get a completely free one-on-one lesson with me if you join. And just like Jason, you can get hundreds of ELO points very fast once you understand the ideas and use it in your own games. He goes queen to c2, trying to stabilize everything, but that's another move backwards. Like, I have developed a new piece, and he goes backwards trying to solve the problem. That's never a good thing. Moreover, you know, this queen might be vulnerable there. I see that, okay, he wants to play knight c3 and be solid with it, but no way. Queen d7, let's start with that one. Develop our queen, have those ideas in mind. Rook c8. We are playing as black. It's only move number 15, but we are already controlling the entire initiative. This is the type of result you can expect out of this opening. First of all, it's reliable. Not in terms that you're going to just win all of your games by move 12. It's just not possible, not realistic. Everyone who sells you those horrible traps that are just hoping for the opponent to blunder, but if they don't blunder or if they play something else, it just doesn't work. Here you have a reliable system, very flexible one, which you can use every single time and not collapse, but just forget about losing in the opening once and for all. Knight to c3, right? Do we immediately go for bishop h3? I don't think we have to. I think we have to bring more stuff. That is the right approach to chess, and once all of our pieces are developed, we can go ahead by improving it, by creating those threats for the opponent. Maybe even bishop b4 makes sense. You know, at some point, he might have some troubles there. And the bishop on e7 is not doing much. On the other hand, maybe knight h5 is an interesting idea, because this bishop, like if he plays e3, this bishop almost has 0 squares to go. I can go knight h5, then g5, then f6, and just win it. But if you don't play e3, then this pawn is constantly hanging. Maybe he can play f3, but I can take it. And that, if he takes with pieces, that gives me this additional e4 square for my pieces. Remember, he has some problems here. And if he takes with the pawn, then I can go ahead with maybe even bishop f5, actually, attacking over there. Anyway, knight h5 feels like a very promising idea. I just want to take it and get a pair of bishops first, second, create a weakness, third, open up the king, then I'm just coming with an attack. And he doesn't have a lot of squares, like he has to go all the way backwards if he doesn't want to lose the bishop. Which is not great, by any means. b3, okay. That makes sense in terms of getting rid of my knight. The knight was very annoying for him, but that also weakens that knight hugely. The question is, how do we react? Do we play knight to d6? Which would allow him to exchange some stuff and at least solve some of his problems, but not all, because this queen is going to come attacking everything. I'm still very active, like all of my pieces are super active. I like it. Or play knight to b6. not allowing him to exchange stuff, but my knight on b6 is also not great. I don't like it. I think knight d6 is faster, knight d6 is more active, knight d6 puts more pressure on my opponent's position, which is my entire goal here. Like immediately here, I'm threatening to take even twice, maybe sacrificing my queen, because in the end I'm going to take his queen. Or just taking it and playing, oops, bishop b4 and threatening this knight multiple times. Like this is super dangerous for him. So in a way, I just get rid of this very important defender of him. He goes queen to d2. That makes sense in order to get rid of this pin there. And the knight can take back. But afterwards, I can play bishop to b4. Attacking that queen again, and it almost doesn't have any good squares to go. Alternatively, I can play knight f5, keeping more stuff on the board and going ahead with bishop b4, but I slightly don't like that he's gonna attack me there. That might be dangerous. I think I just take. I win time. I win space. I go ahead with the tempo. Like, where does if the queen goes here, then he runs into rook c2. The rook is very active there. The e2 pawn is in trouble. He goes backwards, then he breaks the connection between the rooks. Then this rook is not going to be developed. Also not great. Yes, I still need to convert my advantage. Of course, chess is a complicated game, but this is a dream case scenario out of the opening. I think the simplest thing would be just to double my rooks, although I have to be careful with knight e7, that would be an annoying pin. So we have to think how to use the advantage. Maybe after queen d1, we do exchange those bishops and play for the checkmate somehow. Or we remaneuver the queen all the way to h5 to attack there once again. But there is knight d6. Still some problems to solve, let's see. It's kind of pleasant problems though, right? We are already thinking how to beat our opponent straight out of the opening, which is normally not the case when you play as black. Okay, he goes here, trying to be more active, but that allows rook c2. Probably he's counting on that, but he's almost trapped, like bishop d2, he has to go here, then takes. If he takes back, somehow it feels very suspicious. Or maybe the other way around. Rook c2, f3, bishop d2, queen here, takes, and then I take there. I mean, to say the least, I have to play rook c2. If that is a possible move, my rook goes to the second rank, which is the best rank for your rook to be. And it creates a threat, and he cannot easily deal with it without creating any new weaknesses for himself. I cannot just ignore that move. I don't need to calculate everything till that. For example, I just noticed that after f3, I can take it and play rook e8, which is the golden opportunity for me to finish my development completely. Of course, I have still to calculate the lines, be careful, but that feels very promising. Maybe the drawback is that bishop takes, for example, if I play rook e8, he has queen to d3, attacking my rook, and I don't have time for bishop takes and rook e2. Okay, bishop e5, he's in a completely different world. Some other ideas, just sacrificing that pawn and going for the checkmate. That is an interesting idea, something you should never underestimate. It's not enough to get out of the opening and be a little bit better if you miss just one opportunity from the opponent. You might be dead, I don't know, rook takes, queen g5, threatening checkmate. Might be really dangerous, like queen f5, he takes, and then I'm losing some pieces. If I take with the bishop, what does he do? Bishop f6, or maybe queen g5. Well, the good thing is I always have knight e8. That basically defends that and even threatens f6, winning the piece. That feels pretty good. The question is bishop takes, oops, or rook takes. What is better? After bishop takes, he has rook c1, and then bishop d2 doesn't feel to work. By the way, speaking about bishop d2, that was my idea earlier. Doesn't it just win the queen? He has 0 squares to go, right? If you are tired of forgetting your openings and losing because of that, Chess Reps, the sponsor of today's video, is a perfect solution for you. Choose the opening you want to learn and train it in a fun and interactive way. You will get targeted puzzles and reels specifically for your opening, as well as modes like Arena and Leaderboard to see how you stack up against others. Check the link in the description to try it for free. So even if something feels tempting to you, like grabbing a pawn with the tempo, what could be better? Try to think a little bit more. Maybe you have even a better move. I think bishop d2 just wins the queen on the spot. And this is the consequences of wasting so many tempo. Remember that knight, I think this is this knight, like he did so many moves just to be on b5, not participating in the game at all. Then this queen, he wasted so much time with this queen. And as a result, he didn't finish his development, whereas pretty much all of my pieces, except for this rook, are super active, super aggressive, and I'm winning the queen. Okay, he takes. I think I can even take it back, because he still doesn't have any squares for the queen. Nothing has changed. Or I can take immediately. Because, I mean, the queen is the queen. I think that's the simplest, not to calculate any knight a3 afterwards. We don't need it. If he takes, I can just take the bishop back. He takes on g7. Very stubborn. Not sure what's the point. I can just take it. Bishop takes f2 is also possible, doesn't really matter. But here I can grab, maybe even with the bishop. No, then he has rook f2. Let's keep it clear. Rook here, threaten, and bishop, rook takes g2. At this point, you basically want to exchange everything that moves until it doesn't move anymore. He goes rook f4, attacking there and stopping rook g2. That makes sense, but it doesn't help with the fact that he's a queen down. I like just rook takes e3. He cannot attack my queen, so my bishop is not in trouble, and I'm ready for bishop f3. Or alternatively, rook takes b3, grabbing even more pawns. The tricky thing about the knight, it might feel great, but it actually is completely useless, so don't be intimidated by such knights. Okay, how do I beat him? Maybe I need to bring this rook into the game. That's the only one that is not playing still. He's potentially threatening something here, but that's not consistent with the move rook to b1. Secondly, I can just, I don't know, even bring the bishop back. But what if we just got lucky? Let me prove to you that this system works against everything. He plays d4, no problems. We go ahead with the move d6, and after c4 we can actually immediately go for e5. Don't be afraid of him taking it. It's actually the best endgame you can imagine for black. Even objectively, there is no advantage for white here according to the engine, and very fast it's better for black, because those pawns are actually stuck. This bishop is not doing anything. And the advantage is we haven't played knight f6 yet, so we can play f6 instead, and this is a perfect solid structure against this knight. And we do the same against this knight. We play c6, and then like both knights are completely useless. They're not doing anything. Okay, he plays bishop e3 first, no problem. This knight always goes to d7. So you see, even in the endgame, we still follow the same approach. We still want to play here on the queen side, in the center. Just don't play bishop c5 too early, because first of all, it's pinned, or there is rook takes d7, check if you go king c7. So be careful with that. But it's not necessary. We want to bring all of our pieces into the game. I like this knight to h6 maneuver, because we want to go here. That would be really bad news. If they ever take, that's fine. We have a pair of bishops, very cool position. And if they don't do that, then they have to play h3, covering that, and then this knight goes to f7 and even potentially to d6, where it's going to attack a lot of pawns. Let's see how this plan is going to work in action. The reason my win rate is close to 100% in this kind of endgames is because I play it so often. I have so much experience. Yes, maybe once you try it for the first time, it's not going to be that great for you, and it's fine. It takes time to understand a little bit of ideas. You watch a few videos, you join my opening mastery, where you build a holistic opening repertoire for white and black, and then you keep gathering that experience. You still have to play it yourself. Like, I can do everything, I can explain you all of the ideas, but unless you try it yourself and you actually invest your time and energy into trying it and analyzing your games afterwards, I give you live feedback as well in my academy. you will never be successful in chess in general. You learn by doing. But here, you don't need to memorize tons of lines. You don't need to spend weeks that you don't have as an adult chess player, right? You have your family, your job. You can just rely on the principles where your pieces belong, and that is going to serve you for many years to come. Okay, he plays knight to d2, but this knight is still stuck. I mean, you cannot go anywhere. It's very sad. Maybe that is against my idea of knight h6, because at least you can play f3. But now there is no problem with bishop c5. That knight is blocking the rook, so no rook d7 is possible. I can either play bishop c5 immediately, or I can first prevent b4, because b4 is what he wants to do, right? And then I need to go backwards. So I play a5, cover those opportunities, and the next move would be bishop to c5 normally, but he plays something interesting. He plays f4, which, I don't know, for me, I feel so tempted to somehow get my knight to e5. This knight on e5 is the best possible position you can imagine. Once the pawns are gone here, nobody can attack it, and it's super strong here. But if I do it directly, then the problem is it's not that great. There is a pin, he goes knight f3, attacks it even more. I don't like it. Maybe I play bishop d6 first, just attacking the pawn. f5, never a problem, just go back. Or I just wait for him to take me, right? I can play knight h6, by the way. Now he doesn't have f3, so I can just play knight h6, threaten a knight g4. Maybe he plays f5 though, then bishop f7, h3, and my knight is kind of stuck. Not a big deal, but I don't like it. If I just play bishop c5 as I wanted, then takes, and he can take, and at least he got a weakness to attack. I don't want to give him this chance. I can try to take and then play bishop d6, just trying to exchange those guys and then play knight e5. But he can take me, then play knight f3 check, and then I don't have that move. So what do I do? Maybe I can be more tricky. Knight h6, f5, and instead of going to f7, I go to g8. So knight g4 is still an idea, and if he plays h6, like I said, takes is like never a problem. Just take it back and enjoy the two bishops advantage. That's cool, but otherwise we are going to play knight f7, then knight e6, and the knight would be really cool there, maybe even after bishop c5, and then we are going to attack everything with our knights. I really like that plan. And specifically knight h6, I want to show you this idea. Please never be afraid of bishop h6. Two bishops are much more important than those slightly vulnerable pawns. It's not even possible to attack them, so it doesn't matter. Maybe even the fact that the g file is going to be opened would be helpful for us. If he plays h3 immediately, just to cover that square and go ahead with his idea, then I thought I'm more prepared for like all of this e5 stuff, but the problem is I cannot play knight f7. He has f5 and suddenly my bishop is trapped. That's something I have to think about. Yeah, he goes for h3. Maybe now I do go for bishop c5. I'm more prepared for it. Takes, and if he takes and plays knight f3, I can just play knight f7. And everything is solid. Yes, I would prefer to have my knight there if I can, but at least I finished my development. My knight on c5, it's like the best possible position you can ever imagine. This knight cannot move, the bishop is stuck. I'm ready for rook to d8, fighting for the open file. The only bad thing is this pawn is a little bit vulnerable. The alternative is to take. Bishop takes, and maybe even just play king b6 and say I don't care. Maybe I do care. I don't like that my king is booted around. What else? I can go ahead with that plan of bishop d6 and just forcing him to play f5 or take. Because this closed position where my pawn on e5 is protected, I like much more. Let's do that. Yes, I might lose a tempo, but in such a closed position, this one tempo is not that important. Important is to get the pawn structure that is really cool for you. It's already the end game. He doesn't have a queen to attack me. He doesn't have any penetration square. So after f5, there is nothing he can do with that time that he wins. That's one tempo. He cannot really take advantage of that. But bishop c5 is coming, rook d8 is coming. That feels very good. And if he takes, that is of course a dream case scenario. Just take back with a knight, and I would give up everything for having that knight on e5. Moreover, if he wants to exchange it, I have the second knight to support it. This is a dream. Like, I immediately attack that pawn. He cannot even play knight f3 in the first place. The knight on e5, why it's so powerful, it controls all of the squares. Whenever you can get the knight in this small center and it cannot be attacked, please go for it. That would be fantastic. But okay, he plays f5. I don't want to sacrifice any pieces. That all is not necessary. That would give him the e4 square, which is really great for his knight. That's not something you want. The position is bad for him exactly because of those pawns. He cannot go anywhere. The question is still, do we play bishop g8? That shuts down our rook, or we play bishop f7? That shuts down our knight. Maybe we play bishop f7, rook d8, and the knight can be remaneuvered back to e7. I think that is more reasonable. Although the knight is, of course, more active on d6 in the long run, like bishop g8, bishop c5, the knight f7, knight d6. If we can achieve all of that, that is a dream. Again, like this entire position is a dream. And maybe in some variations we have an additional idea of knight g5 if something is going to change. And what's more, it's going to help us to stop his, maybe he has this counterplay of g5. Well, that knight on f7 would completely stop it. I like bishop g8. And it's more instructive in terms of showing you it's okay to lose time if we have achieved everything we wanted strategically and our opponent doesn't have any counterplay. Maybe apart from this, but like I immediately can play bishop c5, takes, and then g5, just take it. Knight f7, it's protected enough. Or play knight f7 in the first place. This bishop is still very strong along this diagonal, very annoying for the opponent to deal with. Maybe he has to somehow try and stop bishop c5, but it's very inconvenient. You have to play that, and then I have b5, potentially. Okay, g4. Do we play knight f7? Or do we play bishop c5? If we play bishop c5, he takes, we take, g5. We can actually then play knight f7. We are not obliged even to take it. Then I don't care. Bishop c5 is really the move I want to make strategically, and it's a good moment. The bishop is hanging, he has to do something. Either he has to take this one, I don't mind, I take back, and then it stops g5 as well. Or he takes here, which helps me achieve my goal, getting that knight to c5. Or he somehow protects because he cannot go away. But that is no different. I'm gonna just take and play knight c5, at least. I don't have anything better. I feel myself like a fish in the water in all these types of positions. And yes, you can say, well, but it's easy for you because your opponent is low rated. I have played a lot of games against really strong opponents, Grandmasters, International Masters, and a lot of those games are in the playlist. Please take a look at it after this video. So this opening works on all levels. It's not just because I am stronger than my opponent. I think my opponent is kind of confused, and that is what I like about this opening, that your opponent is like, I have so much space, I have developed more pieces, why on earth am I not better? Why on earth I don't have anything? But yeah, this is the magic. This is why it might also feel like a lot of guys come to the comment, oh my god, this opening is so passive, how on earth can you play it? It's so bad, like I'm gonna destroy you every time. They say, yeah, all is left for me is to laugh because I have 10 years of tournament experience with it, and I became an international master thanks to it, as well as hundreds of my students who played that opening skyrocket their level. So I don't need more proof that the opening works wonders. The only case where I might have troubles with it is if I constantly play this one opening alone in all of my tournaments. My opponents, they're just preparing with the engine against me. And of course, it doesn't matter which opening you play. If you constantly play the same thing, you're gonna end up playing against the machine, which is way too strong to handle. So I need to be flexible, but as a surprise in all of the rapid and splits games, this opening works really well for me and for my students. G5 is not possible, so he takes on H6. Okay. He thinks that it's gonna somehow help him that my pawn structure is not perfect. But actually, if you think about it, it's a very good pawn structure. You can never attack it. He has light squares bishop, so he is kind of stuck because of all of his pawns on the light squares. And there is no way like all of that can be dangerous because I just have so many pawns there. If anything, one day it can be a problem for him because I can attack it multiple times. But I don't need it, as mainly I want to play on the dark squares. I have the bishop here, he has a lot of holes, a lot of great squares for my pieces to go. And yeah, this bishop is always going to be annoying, even if you play b3. Sooner or later, I'm gonna somehow come and play a4 and create those additional weaknesses. Let me show you in action, how do you actually outplay your opponent. Okay, bishop d3, trying to develop. If I play bishop d4, I think he wants to somehow attack my bishop. But then I have bishop a3 check and knight to c5 to follow. Well, if he plays knight b3, then of course I'm going to play a4 first and then knight c5. And if he goes here, then just knight c5 immediately. I like it. As a bonus, I might consider just taking there. That would make his pawn structure horrible, really horrible, unlike mine here, because this pawn might be just lost kind of immediately, or just knight c5 attacking this, this, and this. But bishop c3, I think, is a real positional threat. For example, after knight b3, I can take it, I can play a4, then knight c5, and this is just lost strategically. I still need to tactically find the win and continuation, but I'm pretty confident in my ability to do that, and otherwise it's just so miserable. You just get to enjoy playing chess in this opening. You can play something like king c2, right? Trying to protect it, then I don't really want to take, he takes it back. But I go ahead with knight to c5. He can play knight b3. What do? Maybe we just play rook d8. He takes, we can take with the rook. If he takes here, we take with the bishop, and those stack squares, they are still very weak. This bishop will always be weaker than my bishop. Knight a4, okay. That also makes sense, to stop me from knight c5. Well, at least he would be able to take. b5 is the first move I think about. Takes, but that at least makes use of this bishop. I can take it back there, but I don't know, I feel that gives counterplay that I don't want him to have. What is other opportunities that I have? Just slowly playing bishop f7, h5, rook g8, because who's gonna guard those guys? You cannot even play rook g1. After knight b3, I still have bishop b3 check. Maybe knight f3 is what he's gonna play, but I have the check, then I have h5, then I'm gonna attack. I like it. You want to create as many weaknesses in your opponent's camp as possible. You don't want to hurry and try to play just on one weakness, because he's gonna use all of his pieces to defend it, and you're stuck. Instead, I want to attack here, I want to attack here, and sooner or later, he's not gonna be able to hold everything together. What I have to think, though, is this h-pawn. Okay, not anymore. I think he is covering that so that he can really attack my bishop, but to be honest, I'm not even sure that I need to go away with the bishop, that it's going to be a threat. If you think about it, he's gonna take it, I'm gonna take it back, this knight is stuck, and my knight will get the best square ever, the e5 one, where it's gonna control absolutely everything. I mean, and that pawn I can always support with a pawn structure like that. That is the dream. I don't even need anything else. In the meantime, why can't I just play h5? Okay, it's not a threat yet. Maybe that's what he claims, but maybe I start with rook g8 and have h5 at my disposal. That develops more stuff and doesn't tell him the whole story of what I want to do. And after knight f3, I can just play b6, so that I'm ready, takes to play c5, to play knight e5, all of those things. Alternatively, I can just say, I don't care, I'm gonna just play h5, immediately create a threat. How do you even handle it? If you take, I play bishop takes, that is annoying. If you take here, I take it back. Okay, that's very similar. Knight b3. Maybe it's even better because I thought the knight could somehow help. But it doesn't. Maybe what he's gonna do is just play bishop here. And takes, and the bishop is covering everything. And he's attacking over here. So I think it's time for me to play b6. So that I'm ready against bishop e2 or something to play c5. Yeah, you might say the drawback is that I give him the opportunity to go here, but once he comes, I'm gonna just take him. I think I still have a tremendous advantage. Or, I mean, I still haven't decided. After bishop e2, I can just give a check and go ahead with my plans. Or maybe bishop f2 first, then bishop e3 check. It's so flexible for me. I have all the opportunities in the world. Whereas for my opponent, it's super annoying to do anything even. He takes on d4. I'm not sure. I'm really curious to see what is his idea, because one look at this knight on e5 and you don't want to take on d4. I think he completely underestimated it. It maybe felt for him, first of all, he takes a bishop with a knight, and this pawn might be a weakness, but I have exactly prepared against that, e5. Yeah, maybe if he would have some breakthrough with e5, that might be something, but no, he doesn't. And once you see this pawn on c5, this knight on e5, this is like a fantastic position. The only chance from there for him to save the game is somehow to create a fortress, to say that, yes, I'm much more passive, but you are not going to penetrate, you are not going to break through. I think he's not going to be successful with that, because I'm already ready here to break through on the king side to create more threats for him. So of course he has some ideas like b3, knight b2, knight d3. First, it's pretty slow. Second, I will always be better as my bishop is attacking all of those pawns. And his bishop is stuck. It's like a giant pawn just defending his pawns. I might even bring my king all the way to e5. And those would always be weaknesses. I can go here into the attack. That is a dream. Okay, b3. Maybe just h5. Nothing is under attack. Although maybe he wants to play bishop e2, and then if I take, at least he's gonna come back here and be active. So I should be a little bit careful. h5, bishop e2, knight e5. If he takes... Oh wait, my pawn is hanging, so I have to play c5 at some point. Maybe I just start with the move c5. Because I know I need that move to make sure the entire pawn structure is solid. My knight is coming there, I play h5. Once the knight is going away, I play a4. I think that is just too much for him to handle. Most importantly, it's just such a pleasant position to play and enjoy. There is zero risk for you, but you can play for the win the entire game and torture your opponent. Yeah, let's go ahead with knight e5. He's coming up with the right plan. He's Tron, it's one of our subscribers, so that means by definition he's not a weak player, but it's still very difficult for him. If I allow him to bring his knight to f4, that might be helpful. The knight on f4 would really be great, but of course I will always take it, then bring my king to e5, and then at some point, somehow I'm gonna penetrate. I might relocate this bishop, by the way, to c6. Yeah, that is maybe the reason why he goes to this side, so that it's still protected. The problem is, though, how do you defend on the other side of the board? It's just, you have too many weaknesses to handle. Still, too early to relax. You don't want to miss some penetration with e5, some breakthrough. So I need my king there, probably. Maybe I even shouldn't be afraid of that knight on f4 so much after knight d3. I can just play king d6, knight f4, I can grab here. That seems to work, because this bishop, I think he really needed it to stabilize, to keep everything together. He didn't play it, and now he's in trouble. And of course, this pawn on d4, protected passer, it's always great, and all of the pawn endgame, that would mean that I'm just winning thanks to it. When you have light squares bishops, you want to put all of your pawns to the dark squares. First, it doesn't restrict your bishop. Second, your opponent's bishop cannot attack it. Third, you control all of the squares. The pawns are controlling the dark squares, whereas your bishop is controlling the light squares. For him, he has bishop here, all of the pawns on the light squares, and nobody is guarding the dark squares. He has just holes there. Okay, so here I have multiple moves. I can just take the pawn, just say I don't care. Probably he wants to take there, but not like it helps him much. Yes, he has a passer, but the passer cannot go anywhere. At least the good thing for him is I cannot go ahead with the king. I really like this king on e5 if he takes or I take. Second, I can just play king d6. Or first, I can take here and then take on g4, but that allows e5. That is some kind of counterplay. You don't want to allow unnecessary counterplay. Third, I can take and then play king d6, but that at least allows him to bring the bishop back. Finally, I can just play king d6, and I think that option I like the most. He's not in time to bring his bishop back. This is already under attack. He can takes and rook g1, but then I take it. I can remaneuver my bishop to c6. Maybe he even takes, like plays rook h1. I can wait with capturing that and remaneuver my bishop first, double the rooks first, or play a4 to create additional problems for him. So I feel overall that king d6 brings the most of the problems. He can play knight f4, but in that case I definitely just win a pawn. So I like king d6. This king on e5 is beautiful. It cannot be attacked, and it's controlling all the squares. It attacks that pawn, so he cannot easily, I don't know, remaneuver the bishop there and get rid of the rook, because I'm gonna just take it at some point, either with the king or the king would help me to take it with the bishop. Yes, he takes it. This is the importance of the king in the endgame. A lot of players completely forget about king's role, don't use it, but the king is as strong as a rook in the endgame, so please always use it to your advantage. Try to bring your king to the part of the board where all of the main actions are happening, and yeah, just make sure it's not in big danger, but there are no checks. It's not a problem at all. Do we play a4? Does it somehow help? He's gonna play king b2, then maybe even a3, but I'm not sure it's somehow helping us. If we take, he takes back. Maybe we can break through there, but I don't feel it's necessary. Although that might be dangerous. Let's play a4. I feel like I create even more troubles. b4 is more or less never possible. I just take it, and c4 is hanging as well. So I'm not losing anything, but I create additional headache for my opponent, which is very beneficial. It can really be dangerous at some point. b5, c4, I can even attack that guy there. It's not consistent with the h5 plan though, because at some point he might take, if I remove my rook, bring it to the g7, so this plan is double-edged. But my opponent doesn't know that. Therefore, he has to consider all of those options. He has to deal with all of those potential threats. Remember, the threat is so often stronger than the execution. So he's wasting time, he's trying to deal with the problems, he feels uncomfortable, and sooner or later he's gonna get into time trouble, and on top of all of the problems in the position, that would be an additional factor that he has to handle. Okay, he decides to take there because he cannot just sit there and be as passive as it gets, but I don't think it helps. Because now it's going to be even easier for me to attack over here, the file is opened, this file is opened. All of that is additional opportunities for me. This pawn would always be weak. Like I said, this bishop can never be activated. Right. I feel that at some point I might even be able just to penetrate like that. Bishop e2, rook e1, d3, king d2, king d4. Feels like I'm giving him a little bit of a chance. But on the other hand, I go forward. Yeah, maybe it's not needed. How do I win if I don't do that? Funny enough, I might just exchange all of the rooks. Either I exchange all of the rooks or I just win the G file, which is winning immediately. And if we exchange, then how do you handle all of those pawn problems? You have to put your rook to, your king to f3 and your bishop to d3 to defend that pawn twice and hope that I cannot penetrate. But if I'm able to play king f4 before you get the king to f3, which is more than possible for me, then you can never save that pawn. And I'm gonna just turn around, bring the bishop over here, take that pawn, and then everything is collapsing and I'm winning thanks to this pawn. I think that's the easiest winning for me. And you only need one win. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. I think this is the simplest. So he plays king d2, I take, he takes, I play rook g8. Again, he cannot escape the exchange. If he goes away, I penetrate rook g2, rook g3, everything collapses. So he has to take, bishop takes, king e2, and he's one tempo away from king to f3, but not in time. I just play king f4, and then there is no way you can defend that pawn. And if you ever play 5, I just take it back with the king, then I win the f pawn. This is game over. One thing, at some point I should take the b3 pawn, because if he takes, still doesn't give him anything. He has 2 pawns against 1, but all of the pawns are on the light squares. No, it actually doesn't help because it just loses the c4 instead of creating any problems for me. So that's not the point. Let's just take rook g4 if you're wondering. I think doesn't help. I just play h5. And then rook h4, it's not even hanging, whereas I achieve my goal, penetrating. Or maybe rook g3. Here, everything collapses. Yeah, he goes for it, but just h5. I think now he's just losing the control of the g file. He cannot do anything anymore. Takes, takes. Maybe he was hoping to take here, but c4 is always hanging. Otherwise, the rooks love the open file. That's how you penetrate into your opponent's position. And afterwards, yeah, just too many weaknesses. All of those pawns are on the light squares, and you only have one bishop to cover all of them. It's just not possible. Whereas all of my pawns are just not possible to take, not possible to attack for the bishop. It's a very sad situation. Bishop goes to c2. It's not even a threat. Maybe he wants to take, and then after takes, he wants to play bishop b3. And at least maybe going into the rooks endgame still doesn't help him. I want to play rook g3. Although he has h4. At least if I take the pawn, he gets the h file. Okay. But rook g3 is a double threat. Not only it threatens this pawn, but also d3 with a tempo. And then I win the pawn, and then the entire pawn structure collapses. So I think it's good enough. h4 was the alternative, just fixating one more pawn on the light squares, also a very reasonable idea. Rook h1 is way too passive. Way too passive. I think d3 is already winning. Because king d2 doesn't really help you. There is a horrible check. I might even start with rook g2, right? Attacking over there. At some point I can just come with the king and that would be a checkmate. If I take that pawn, at least he gets to activate his rook. So I want to start with rook g2 or maybe even h4. I have so many good moves that it's hard to decide. If I play h4, he gets to play king d2, king d4, or king takes, and he has rook h2. Yeah, so I feel like I have to get the control of the second rank. That is super active. The second rank is always the best for your rook, as we have already learned in the previous game. He almost has 0 moves. This is a real positional masterpiece, which I enjoy, honestly, even more, such endgames, than some tactical sacrifices. King to b1, all right. How do we proceed? That is also possible. To get that square available, he's gonna hide in the corner. But then some checkmating ideas can happen. Let's play a3. That fits well into our story of having all of the pawns on the dark squares. This one is on the light square, but I played it to get more space. This bishop cannot attack it. This rook is super... everything is super passive for him. And look at the difference of the kings. It is what decides the destiny of the game. I think rook f2 is very good, because he basically has to go backwards, right? Very nice. And it's still not the time to take. We can play that, we can... Well, rook e1. How do we actually win? The drawback of the move h4 is that he's gonna have bishop g4. Maybe we just take here. Now that we have played a3, the king is always in trouble, so there would be additional ideas like... Or maybe even rook b2, rook d2 if he leaves. Right, yeah, let's take it. It's time to cash in. Check, right, let's take more. Rook e7. And here is what I meant. Rook b2 check, king there, and rook d2. And there would be a lot of checkmate ideas. I like it. It's not just exchanging the bishops, it's about giving a checkmate. And he cannot go here, d2 is a checkmate immediately. But here we have rook d2. There are no checks, bishop g4, you can just take it. Bishop f3, he has at least one check. That is a very helpful check, actually. So we should be careful. Bishop f3, rook f2, bishop b4 check, and then he takes on d3. Still not really helping, but I would avoid it by playing king f4 or something. Okay, rook here. I think even rook takes d1 is enough, but not needed. What's the best way? Probably just king f4. Remember, never forget about your king, it has to be active. And also I like to keep it on the dark square, so that there are no checks from the bishop. The rook now can never leave the back rank, because of those checkmate problems. And my king, maybe I want to bring it to c3. Yeah, this is never hanging because of the bishop. All right. Now the bishop is hanging again. Exactly. What do we do next? He wants to play bishop f3 and at least free himself a little bit. The king is good on d3. It's even better on c3 though. If I play bishop e6, at least he can take, right? We take there. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is it time to take? Maybe that's the simplest at this point. King is 3. I think I'm just one tempo not enough to make it super clear. Because he can defend that, and then who knows. Maybe the other way around. We take, we play king e3, and then we play d2. We are basically threatening bishop g6 check, king e2. No, he's still in time. King c3 and king c2 and king e3, and then he takes the pawn. Always have to be careful. I think we have to prepare it by playing king to c3. Now we are threatening to take and just play d2. And then we are gonna just promote. But he can play bishop f3. That is blocking his own rook, so he's not that happy to make that move anyway. We can slowly improve bishop g6. At some point this pawn should just promote, right? Yeah, bishop goes there, but there is nothing to attack thanks to all of those pawns. So just play bishop g6. Rook c1 I can handle with rook c2. You have to be careful not to blunder some stalemate, but yeah, he has too many moves. I don't think it's possible. Yeah, now it's time to take. Enough is enough. And d2, still no stalemate because he has too many pawn moves. d2 is the simplest. You always want to create passers in the endgame, and once you have it, you always want to push it as far as possible. Yeah, he's getting ready for that stalemate idea. Wait a second. Like bishop c2 or king c2 or something. He takes and then he plays b4 But then I have one tempo. Can go away somehow. So let's play king c2. And after takes, I can take, and after b4, just step away with the bishop so that he has b1 square. But be careful, it's never too late. You take it, he already plays c5, you take it, it's a draw. If you don't take it, he's threatening to take, and you have to be careful with that. The bishop c2 is the simplest, or bishop f7, sorry. And then what's good is this king, it can never go anywhere. So I actually don't even need that pawn, I just promote my guy. So here you have it, everything you need to beat all of your opponents with this one opening in this playlist. You learn so much more. Opening Mastery right now on sale, free one-on-one lesson with me. The link is in the description.